Welcome back to Project 613. Today we will learn 5 mitzvot on the topic of kosher. But first, what does the word kosher even mean? It doesn't mean healthy, it doesn't mean tasty, it doesn't mean blessed by a rabbi. Kosher actually means fit or suitable. And this is because there are certain foods that God said are fit and suitable for a Jew to consume, and there are other foods that are not fit for a Jew to consume. And because God wants us to be holy, He therefore gave us a special diet. And He said, these are the specific foods that are kosher, that are suitable for you to consume. We are what we eat. And if we eat foods that are suitable for a Jew, hopefully we will behave in a way that's suitable for a Jew. So even though over the generations many health benefits have been suggested about the kosher diet, nevertheless, keeping the kosher diet has nothing to do with health benefits. It's a spiritual, holy diet that was given to us by God, who He and only He determines which foods are suitable for a Jew to consume. So yesterday we started learning the mitzvot about kosher, and we learned about the signs that determine a kosher animal, if it has split hooves and chews its cud. Today we move on to the signs that determine a kosher bird. And the first mitzvah that we have today is to actually examine and determine if a bird is kosher before we consume it. So the Torah gives us a list of 24 types of birds which are not kosher. And by examining their various characteristics and their bodies and the differences between them, we can actually see which specific characteristics exist only in not kosher birds and do not exist in kosher birds. And the Talmud gives us different examples, both in the behavior of the animals. The not kosher birds tend to be more violent, have a certain attacking nature. The kosher birds do not have them. There are certain differences that could be seen in the feet of the not kosher birds and different in kosher birds. There are certain differences that could be seen in the shape of the eggs of kosher birds compared to not kosher birds. So this is the first mitzvah that we have today, being able to determine the difference. Practically speaking, we only would consider kosher birds those which we have a tradition to be kosher, and this is because there is confusion as to the exact meaning of certain birds that appear on the Torah's list, and therefore only those birds that we have an exact tradition that Jews have been eating throughout the generations, those are considered kosher today, even though technically speaking there may be many, many more which would be kosher as well. The next mitzvah that we have is the mitzvah to be able to determine and examine the signs of grasshoppers, to know which grasshoppers are considered kosher. The Torah tells us that there are certain grasshoppers that would be considered kosher, and there are different signs. They have extra legs in the front, and their wings cover their entire body, and there's other signs that the Talmud tells us as well. Again, practically speaking, the vast majority of Jewish communities do not eat grasshoppers, and this is because out of the thousands of species of grasshoppers, only 8 would qualify for the Torah's signs, and because we are not sure exactly which are the ones, therefore the vast majority of Jewish communities stay away from grasshoppers altogether. That said, there are certain communities, the Yemenite and Moroccan communities, that did have a tradition, and in those communities, they do still till today consume the grasshoppers, that they have a tradition to be considered kosher. The third mitzvah that we have today is determining the signs of kosher fish. Only fish that have fins and scales are considered kosher. It's important to note that the Torah's definition of scales is slightly different than the definition that your fishmonger may tell you. And therefore, there are certain fish which are considered to have scales, yet the Torah would not consider those scales, and it's important to know the difference as well. The Torah's scales are ones that could be removed easily without removing any of the skin, and if there are other fish that have scales, but while removing them, some of the skin is removed as well, the Torah does not count that as scales. The next mitzvah we have today is the prohibition of eating an animal that only has one of the 2 kosher signs. The Torah tells us there are 4 animals, the hare, the hyrax, the camel, and the pig, that only have one of the 2 signs of a kosher animal. It is forbidden to eat them. In order to eat kosher animals, we have to have both signs, both that it chews its cud and has split hooves. And the fifth and final mitzvah that we have today is that it is forbidden to eat birds that do not have the signs of a kosher bird. And in the coming days, we will learn more about the kosher diet. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.